Hello and welcome to the Emmy Awards. I'm your host, Emmy Cardinale, and this is my podcast where I talk about what I've been watching or rewatching once a week. This is the first episode of mine that you stumble upon and you enjoy it. Please feel free to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get notified when I upload a new episode. Like and subscribe if you're listening to this on YouTube. All that good stuff. My cat Ivy's behind me right now. Some few updates before I get into the episode. I did get a new camera. And I don't know if it made any difference. I don't know. The platform that I use to record my podcast is StreamYard. And I use the free version because this podcast makes no money and I don't have enough money to pay $40 a month for the paid version. And because of that, I can only record with a certain definition. And so even though I got a new camera, I can't tell if the quality increased at all. I think this is slightly better than my FaceTime camera that just comes with the Mac. So hopefully that helped. But sorry if it made no difference. It's just the camera, the little webcam I got was like $30 one time. You know, that's very different than paying $40 a month for a podcast that doesn't make that doesn't make any money. So if the podcast starts making money, I will, in fact, increase my definition. I'm doing the best I can. And I'm really glad that I only got a camera, like a webcam that recorded like into 1080p or whatever definition. Because if I got like a 4K one that was more expensive, I'm like, that wouldn't have mattered anyway because I can't record in anything higher than 720, whatever. So that's my little podcast update. As the title suggests, I am going to be talking about Hacks Season 5, Episode 3. And then the back half of this podcast is going to be about Survivor. I started watching Survivor, and I have a lot to say about Survivor. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. Timestamps are in the description. Feel free to skip ahead if you do not care about Hacks, if you only want to hear my thoughts on Survivor. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, Hacks. This episode was called No New Tricks or something like that. Let me Google it. It was called No New Tricks. So, it opens with Deborah at an event at the hotel where she used to do her residency. And it is to celebrate the opening night of the new artist in residence, Nico Hayes, who is played by Chris Briney, who was Conrad in The Summer I Turned Pretty. And Deborah is wearing a very Yellow Jackets coated outfit. I understand that they're in Vegas, so it's my cat Ivy is like literally biting my hair. I understand that they're in Vegas to the point of, oh my God, can you not bite my hair? Getting a little massage while I podcast, Anyways, I understand that the reason there's a bunch of playing cards is because they're in Vegas and obviously, okay? But I associate playing cards with Yellow Jackets. And so the whole time I was like Deborah Vance stuns in Yellow Jackets themed outfit. It's actually funny. I have this sweater that has like playing cards on it. And when I got it at a my cat Ivy's admiring her. Do you like the new camera? She's admiring herself. Sorry to the audio listeners, but my cat's on the video on YouTube if you are just listening to this. But anyways, so I have this sweater that has playing cards on it. And when the thrift store that I got it from posted it on their Instagram, they were like, this would be great for a poker themed night. But I was just like, this is Yellow Jackets coded to me. And I did get it. And it was honestly really for a good quality sweater. It was like not super expensive. So it was like super. I love that sweater. I'll wear it one day on the podcast. I should have worn it, but the thing is, I just rewatched this episode of Hacks, so I wasn't thinking. Plus, the second half of this podcast is going to be about Survivor, so I feel like wearing camo kind of fits that vibe. But anyways, so Nico Hayes is the new artist in residence there, and he's opening up, and she walks the little red carpet in her cute little outfit. Marty's there, and his wedding's coming up. At this party, Ava meets a man. They have banter. It's cute. And this actor looks so familiar to me. But when I Googled him, it was like he hasn't been in much. No offense to this actor at all. He was in one singular episode of The Sex Lives of College Girls. He played there's this one episode where I don't even remember. Lila, I think is the character's name. She had a really cute delivery driver and she's just ordering the same thing over and over and over again so she can get the same delivery driver. And he played the delivery driver. I went down IMDb like a whole rabbit hole to figure out who he was because it said he was in The Sex Lives of College Girls. And I was like, I don't remember who you were in The Sex Lives of College Girls. It was a really minor part too. But he looked familiar enough for me to look up the IMDb, but they have really nice banter and it seems great. And he's very straightforward and is like, I think you're cute. Do you want to go on a date? And she says, yes, of course. And then he's like, I need to be transparent because this has been an issue in past relationships of mine. I am a sex worker and that has been an issue. And Ava, progressive queen that she is like totally cool with that. Like she doesn't care at all that he's a sex worker, but she doesn't care at all. And that's important because there's a little reversal later, which is the whole joke of their dynamic, right? She's super cool with it. They have a date plan. She's telling people like, yeah, I'm dating a sex worker. He has all these clients. It's totally cool. Whatever. Like she's having a great time with him. She invites him to Marty's wedding and he's like, yeah, they're in bed, and she invites him to Marty's wedding. And he's like, yeah, I just need to check if I have a gig that day. And she's like, totally cool. I get it. Like, I imagine nights are very busy for you. I understand. Like, you're fine. And he's like, oh, no, not because of that, because of magic. And she's like, what? And this was so, like, funny how it was done because they're, like, in bed. And as soon as he says that he's a magician, she, like, covers up. Like, they're just naked. But as soon as, like it was such a subtle physical cue of like, I actually don't feel comfortable with you. Like that icked me out. She had no problem. And that's like the whole joke, right? This thing that he brings up that he's like, this is a deal breaker. It seems like a bigger deal. The thing that ultimately causes a rift and icks her out about this man is the fact that he wants to be a magician, which was really funny. It was really funny. At Marty's wedding, people know him from his work. And she introduces him like not as a magician. He gets all offended and he's like, I thought you said you didn't care what I did for a living. And she's like, that's when I didn't know you were a magician when I said that. Like it's funny. It's a funny moment. And I did like it. Like not a super serious plot line, but it was funny. And I was wondering the whole time what the shift was going to be. I thought maybe it would be something a bit more predictable. Like, you're fine with that in theory, but then you get jealous in practice. Silly me. That's actually like, I don't know why, because Ava last season or 2 seasons ago, I don't know, because I watched all the seasons like at once. But there was one storyline where she's like literally dating a couple. So like, I don't know why I thought that would be the thing, but because I guess that's like the obvious thing is like you think it's fine on paper, but then when it happens, you're like, actually, I don't know if I like this. But that wasn't what happened. It was like funnier this way, that it was like, it's actually not the big thing that you would think. It's the fact that he wants to be a magician, which is very funny. Very funny. I personally think magic is cool. That wouldn't ick me out about somebody. I would think that was cool. I'd be like, oh my God, do a trick. Like, I think magic is cool. I think it's a cool skill because I think there are a lot of different talents that go into that, right? You need to be good at performing. You need to be good at I think magic is cool. The other main plot line this episode is obviously Deborah's relationship with Nico, the artist in residence. Like, he wants to meet her. She meets him. It seems nice. He's like super, super nice to her. I really liked their first conversation. He was like, I wouldn't be here without you. You made like residencies cool again. Like Vegas used to be so outdated, but he made it cool for artists to do residencies. And so he seems like genuinely admiring of her work and her as a person and everything. They get along well, and then Jimmy calls Deborah the next day and is like, Nico wants to take you out to dinner. And this is the only time I think we see Jimmy this entire episode. Like, this episode was severely missing Kayla and Jimmy. Like, I missed them. Robbie Hoffman's character nowhere to be seen. It's a bit of a bummer. Bit of a bummer for me personally. But alas, when Nico and Deborah go out to their dinner, it's like she thinks it's just for PR. So she, ahead of the date, calls her paparazzi friend that she has on speed dial and is like, hey, I'm going to be here with Nico. Feel free to take a picture of us after. And on this date, he makes it clear that he's actually interested in her, and they bond and they connect over like his childhood, and he emancipated himself from his parents because they sold his homecoming pictures and they just generally were like not very good parental figures. And she's very impressed and she feels like they have a lot in common. And she actually like it feels genuine. And he obviously in this moment talks about like his whole life, like he wanted this to be private. And it's very clear, like when they were having this conversation, I was like, I know the fact that the paparazzi are here, or that she called them. I knew that was going to come up and that was going to be a problem. And so the paparazzi come, it seems, whatever. They go out on another date, and he rented out like a whole restaurant. And as they're leaving the next date that we see, Deborah's paparazzi friend is like, you couldn't have given me a heads up this time. You did last time. So naturally, Nico's like, you called the paparazzi on our first date. And she's like, but it was just that first time. And like, I thought it was for publicity. But he feels betrayed, and that's the end of them. And I'm not really upset about it because I didn't really like them together. I'm very anti-age gap relationships. That's my truth. I don't care the genders involved. I don't like age gap relationships. And I understand that like it's not a long-term relationship, and like, you know, but in general, I'm just like, the gimmick here, the thing that makes it like different, or you know, it's not that Deborah's dating somebody who, it's the fact that he's so much younger, and I just don't like that. Did I like seeing Christopher Briney in another role? Yes, I did. I think he did a great job. I enjoyed his performance. In general, I'm glad that it ended sooner rather than later because I didn't like the dynamic. But I also like understand that the whole purpose of it was like, it wasn't meant to be a long-term relationship. Like they were setting it up to be a minor thing. So like, why am I being all nitpicky about it? But I was glad when it ended, and I knew that was going to be the problem. And she's heartbroken, and Ava has to explain to Deborah that she's been blocked because she sends him a bunch of text messages, and Ava's like, none of these have been delivered. And she's like, oh, thank God. And she's like, no, because you were blocked. He blocked you. That's why they haven't been delivered. And so, anyways, I didn't really care. I didn't really care about this. I was glad it didn't last very long. I think it's interesting to see. Like the thing that bugs me about this is that, and it doesn't bug me on like a serious level, but like I liked their conversations and the connection they had to each other, and it's like I just don't like the weird, you know, because I do think it's great to connect to your peers. And I think in situations like being famous and being child actors and child stars and just being in that spotlight in that way, like that's a very bonding experience. And I like the way that he saw her and she saw him. I hate the fact that there was like a weird sexual undertone to it. But that's just my truth. That's just my truth. The other main storyline this episode of Hacks was that there is a casino that Marcus finds out is being like bought to be torn down, and he wants to buy it. So we see him like tour it and everything, and he goes to Deborah for advice, and she's like, I think that's too big of a risk. And then he ultimately is like, I think it's a risk I want to take. And Deborah's like, or no, Deborah changes her mind, and she's like, I think that if you're not risking things, like you're not staying alive. Like it's good to risk things, it's good to do new things. And so they agree to go in on it together. And I really like that as a storyline, genuinely. I think it's a nice, hopefully, venture we're going to see pan out for the rest of the season. And I liked Marcus and Deborah working together again, because that relationship is one we haven't really gotten in a little bit, because of just the nature of how they stopped, like of what their work lives have been in the last few seasons or a couple seasons, because he obviously wasn't part of the late night show. And so it's nice. I'm glad that for the final season, we're getting this Marcus, Deborah duo back in the same way that we got at the beginning of the series. Marcus' wedding, his fiance gets arrested at the wedding. I'm like, okay, Jamie and Georgia. Like, anyway, she was scamming him. And then he and Deborah have a nice moment. I don't really care about Marty. That's all I had to say about Hacks Season 5, Episode 3. I'm sorry. I know that's not a lot, but luckily I have a lot to talk about in terms of Survivor. So I'm just gonna jump straight into my thoughts on Survivor. So my journey with Survivor, right? Survivor 50 is airing, and there are people I know on Survivor 50, not personally, of course. Who do I know personally? Nobody. That's not true. I know Quinn Martin from Big Brother 26. I know him personally. We've never met in person, but that's oomph. He's not on Survivor 50. But like, he is a reality TV person who I know, in my brain, I would, anyways. But Suri is on Big Brother 50, or not Big Brother 50. Man, that's going to be so long. It is so interesting how Big Brother has had 50 seasons, even though it's been around only a little bit longer than Big Brother, but because Big Brother only does seasons like once a year, anyways. But Suri's on Survivor 50. I started watching Survivor 50 like 7 episodes in, I think. Like, I wasn't watching it at the beginning, but I started watching Survivor 50 and I really liked it. And then I was like, you know what? Let me watch other seasons of Survivor. My sister was watching other seasons of Survivor. I'm a AmeriCorey Patreon member, and they've done watch-alongs for Survivor seasons. So I went back and I started those. I started with David versus Goliath, which was really helpful because there's quite a few David versus Goliath people that were on Survivor 50. I don't know if any of them are still there. I think all of the David versus Goliath people are gone, RIP. But like, I got a lot of history, and so that was the first season of Survivor that I watched all the way through, and that was really interesting. I really liked David versus Goliath. I obviously loved Christian. I loved Angelina. I was surprised she got to final 3. I was surprised Mike White made it to final 3. To be quite honest, I did not see that coming. I know the person who won David versus Goliath is kind of a weirdo. It's actually so funny because when I went into it, I was like, I don't want to know who wins. I know who doesn't win because I know Christian doesn't win, and I know like Mike White doesn't win, obviously. And I know Angelina doesn't win because none of the people who were on Survivor 50 were like, I won David versus Goliath. I'm like, the people who are winners have said that they're winners. So that's how I knew that people weren't going to win. But I didn't know who won. And then I was talking to my sister and she's like, oh, the winner has some like weird lore. And that's how I figured. And then I was like, oh my God. Immediately I knew who it was because American Corey was talking about how this guy has weird lore. Anyways, not me talking about American Corey talking about Survivor. Anyways, but that I'm trying to explain my journey to you. Okay. And I realized early on in my Survivor watching career, I watch a lot of reality TV. I watch a lot of competitive reality TV. And I have very few times found myself being like, I want to go on this show. Very rarely. Okay. Only other experience I've had is sometimes I'm like, I want to go on The Bachelor. But I fear that I would struggle too much with like the For the Right Reasons of it all, because I really don't think that I could like lie in that capacity. And I know like all these other competitive shows, like lying is a big part of it. But for me, there's something different about like lying about like, I'm not going to vote you out and then I vote you out versus like lying about liking somebody. I couldn't do that. Or like if I was on Survivor and I was like, I really want like to have a podcast after this, nobody would crucify me. Like there's something about the not acknowledging it's a TV show-ness of being on a dating show that I don't think I could handle, because I'd be like, guys, this is a TV show. Like, you know what I mean? Survivor, it's like, yes, people want to play the game, but nobody's going to like think you're an evil person if you acknowledge the fact that you're on Survivor, and that's really cool. Like, I couldn't be on The Bachelor because I'd be fangirling about like, oh my God, this is the Bachelor Mansion, and this is when this happened. And then like, I'd be like a super fan of these shows, but on the Bachelor, so like, I just couldn't do it. But anyways, all that to say, for the first time in a very long time watching a reality TV show, I found myself thinking, I want to do that. I want to go on Survivor. And I started examining within myself, what makes me want to go on Survivor, right? What is it? And I realized that the main draw for me is that going on Survivor is the closest I could get to experiencing what the Yellow Jackets went through. And that really, I'm watching Survivor Cagayan, Bronze versus Beauties versus Brains or whatever. I'm only like 2 episodes in, but in the second episode, or maybe the first episode, one of the guys says that I took a screenshot of it because I'm like, this is me, but I don't like, it was so funny. He said that he's like, I came to play Survivor because I want to like outwit people, not because I want to starve in the wilderness. Let me see. I don't want to play Survivor to survive in the wilderness. Like, direct quote, he says, in the wilderness. And I was like, that's actually the exact reason that I would want to go on Survivor. Like, genuinely, I started thinking to myself, I'm like, everything in Survivor, if I was hungry, I'd be like, this is just what the Yellow Jackets went through. And there's like a safety to it as well, because I'm like, I'd be experiencing what the Yellow Jackets went through, but like, they have medical. So like, I wouldn't be worried about like, oh, I'm going to get like seriously injured or die, or like something horrible is going to happen to me, because if I'm in a horrible state, they would evacuate me. The Yellow Jackets didn't have that, you know. Plus, I wouldn't be freezing the same way they are. Like, even if it's cold, it's not Canadian wilderness cold. So, like, everything, I think I could get through it because I'd be thinking about the Yellow Jackets the whole time. I even the other day found myself Googling, can you take antidepressants while on Survivor? Because I am on antidepressants. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I mean, even if they don't let you have your antidepressants, that's just what Lottie went through. I'm not going to apply to Survivor. But I got really into it because I found myself wanting to be where they were. You know what I mean? Anyways, sorry for that little tangent. David versus Goliath, I really enjoyed. It was really fun. Then I watched Survivor Pearl Islands, which I actually do think I liked a little bit more than David versus Goliath. In watching a few seasons now, I do really like the earlier seasons of Survivor. I just finished watching Heroes versus Villains, and I do think that was like the sweet spot because it felt like it had enough like old Survivor, but also like the idols were there. And I think the idols add like a very interesting element to Survivor. I think that's one of the things that's made 50 like a little bit of a bummer, is that the idols kind of suck. Like, am I the only one who feels that way? Again, I'm a Survivor newbie. I don't know. But the whole boomerang idol, and I understand that it's like, one, I don't know if there have been boomerang idols in the past. Okay, because here's my history with Survivor, so you understand what I've watched before you comment down below. Any your stupid boomerang idols have been happening since X, Y, Z. Okay, and I'm somebody who normally, when I watch TV, I love a Wikipedia page. I love to Google things, but I'm trying to stay out of that because I want to watch the seasons not knowing who wins. So I don't want to Google too much because I'm like, what if I find out who wins the season that I don't want to know who wins when I'm watching it? And I understand, you know, I can't expect the internet not to put that Sandra won this many seasons, this many times. But I don't want to Google Sandra and find out. I mean, now I know. Anyways, so I watched, started Big Brother. No, oh my God. I started with Survivor 15. Obviously, that one's not over. Then I watched David versus Goliath. I watched Pearl Islands. I watched Micronesia, Fans versus Favorites. And then I watched Heroes Villains. Now I'm watching Cagayan, and I also want to watch Amazon because Rob's season, that one. Also, fun little Emi lore. My mother did live in the Amazon for a little bit. So I'm like, you know, another thing that fuels my Survivor story. So that my point is, I haven't seen many seasons. Okay, so I don't know if boomerang idols are like a common thing, but So maybe they do work, and maybe they do add like an element. But like right now in 50, I'm like, they've kind of been a flop. Like I don't think they've boomeranged anybody. I don't know. The only person who's like played an idol was Aubrey, and that was only because like she played the idol to basically flush of it. That pissed me off. Do people do that a lot in Survivor? I really, that really irritated me. And then the next episode, she's like, "Man, I wish I hadn't used it because it was that weird duos twist that was giving Big Brother 13." Like, I, you know what I mean? The idols this season have been kind of a bummer. The fan involvement, which feels more like celebrity involvement. Like I know the fans did vote. I do believe that's real. Okay, but a lot of the like twists, I'm like, fans didn't come up with this. Okay, it's like celebrities in the hands of the rich people. What do you mean, Mr. Beast is going to be in the next episode? Like I understand he's a fan technically, okay, but that's like in the hands of the rich. This is just America. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? So I don't know. The idols have been kind of a bummer. I am enjoying 50. I am enjoying 50. I've grown quite fond of a lot of people. It's not my favorite season I watched so far. I also understand that like watching a season while it's airing, probably there's a different experience than like the older seasons. But like I really loved Pearl Islands, genuinely. The whole pirate theme was one of the best themes of the seasons that I've watched, just because it was so like I loved the fact that they like dropped them off in the Pearl Island and they have to like barter for supplies at the nearby town. Like I understand why production wise they've had it in the same place for like a while now, but I really love that about Pearl Island. And then Sandra, who like she's the only person who can speak Spanish. They're in Panama. She starts like speaking to people and being like, how much for this? And oh, that guy said it was this much. And like she can communicate and like was a huge asset to her team. And it had such a great cast of characters. Pearl Islands did. And also the one thing I feel like it was missing was like the idols, which is why I think Heroes Villains is so good, because like spoiler, if you're like me and you didn't want to know, that was Sandra's second winning season. Sandra was the first two-time Survivor winner. And honestly, that was so cool to me because it's like the first two times she played, she won both times. Like that's so cool. That's so cool. It's like a lot of winners, like really iconic winners, have played multiple times before they win. And she won the first time she played and then came back as a winner and still won. And it wasn't an all winner season. Also, Heroes versus Villains is so good. It's so good because, sorry, let me jump back to Pearl Island. So the Pearl Island, the theme was so good because they're like, okay, in the first episode, they're like, you're gonna live like pirates, so like whatever you have on you, that's all you have. Besides that, we're taking the rest of the stuff you brought. And so they like row themselves in little rowboats to shore. and they go into this village and they try to get supplies. And one of the teams, I don't remember the tribe names, they leave their supplies in their boat. And Rupert from the other tribe takes a bunch of their shoes and starts bartering with the other people's shoes that they brought. Like it was so funny because he gives them to somebody and they're like, where did you get these? And he goes, pirated. It cracked me up. It cracked me up. Like it was so funny. It was so funny. And that's definitely like not like Sandra's best season. She was better in Heroes Villains, but it was really interesting to see like her first go around and how she made it to the end. And then because it really makes her second game that much more interesting because you see how her gameplay has evolved. But Heroes Villains is so good because it's like enough of that old Survivor, they're in a new-ish place kind of thing. Although, interestingly enough, in the reunion for Heroes versus Villains, Colby, who was in season 2, I don't know what season that was. Is that Australia? Was he in Australia? Anyways, he was in season 2, and old Survivor, like, you probably know if you're watching this. I'm like explaining Survivor to people who probably are like super fans. I'm new to Survivor. Please do not crucify me in the comments. Okay, I don't know what I'm talking about. The only seasons I've seen are Pearl Islands, Micronesia, Heroes Villains, David versus Goliath. Now I'm watching 50, and I'm watching Cagayan. Okay, those are the only seasons I've watched. So I don't know anything. Just to be clear. But I mean, I know some stuff. But anyways, I don't even remember why I went on that tangent. I get really nervous and people are going to be like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I understand because I get defensive about things I care about that way too, okay? But I'm trying to experience it. I'm trying to enjoy it. You know, if what's his name? Oh, okay, I remember what I was saying. So Colby in the reunion for Heroes Villains, he explains that he didn't have as good of a time. It was his third time playing. He played in Australia, then he played in All Stars, and this is his third time playing Heroes Villains, which was season 20. And he said there was less exploring on this island. So I do think there's something about like the older seasons of Survivor where they just kind of let them roam whatever area. And I think then they started, and then obviously in Fiji, it's like the same area probably. Like there's not the same exploring, but I really love that about Pearl Island and the earlier seasons. And I really want to watch like some seasons where they're in like very different terrains because I think that'll be interesting. Like I think that I'm excited to watch Amazon eventually. Understand when my mother went through it. No, I'm kidding. But like I do think there's something really interesting about Survivor in like the beginning when they were like the different places. They're like Micronesia, we're in the Cook Islands, we're in like all these different places. It's interesting to me, and maybe I'll read up on this, but it's interesting to me that they did Fiji so many years before, and then they made Fiji like their like I want to know why they chose Fiji as like their standing filming place for all the seasons. Like I find that very fascinating. But Sandra was so good in Heroes versus Villains. She was so funny. She was in the villains tribe, and the heroes really had a rough go around it. They recovered a little bit towards the end, but then some of the heroes made like such stupid decisions pre-merge and then in the merge. Like there's this one guy his name is JT in the Heroes tribe. I don't know what original season he was in, but he gets an immunity idol, and he and a bunch of the other heroes have decided that there is an all-girls alliance on the villains tribe because every time they come back to like a challenge, it's mostly the men that are going home. So they think the women have teamed up and they're getting rid of the men. So there's an all women's alliance. Mind you, the main reason that the men were going was because Russell was such a like egomaniacal, annoying man that he felt so threatened by so many of the men that it very often became a like I'm not like Boston Rob was also on the villains tribe and like they butted heads, so eventually Boston Rob had to go, and then Sandra threw Coach under the bus and was like, Coach is targeting you. Coach was not targeting Russell, but that's all Russell had to hear. So then they got Coach out. Like it wasn't because the women were targeting the men. It was because Russell like needed to feel like he was running things, and he's misogynistic in my opinion. And so the only way he could really feel like he was running things if he got rid of like the men, allegedly, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Okay, I don't know the man in his real life, but I he has a level of arrogance that I think he's better. I think he thinks he's better than everybody, but I think he especially thinks he's better than the women. There was a scene where he was aligned with Parvati the whole time, and there's a scene where he's like, "You can just ride my coattails," and she goes, "I don't ride coattails," and he's like, "Yeah, you will this time." She just said she doesn't ride coattails. He was so annoying. He was so annoying. He had this attitude of like, if I want you to go home, you're gonna go home. As if he had there's something that the Big Brother fandom coined where it's like HOH-itis, where it's like when you have the power, like it goes to your head and you think that you're like a dictator. Literally, that is how Russell was acting the entire season, as if he himself independently had a say. Okay, like it was so annoying. It was so annoying. He pissed me off so badly, and it was so satisfying to see him flop at the end. It really was. It really was. Like, it was annoying that he got to the end, but it was really satisfying to see him like lose. Because basically, okay, so let me just talk about my favorite moments from Heroes Villains. So JT has a hidden immunity idol, and because he assumes that the women are targeting the men, he has a genius idea to give to give Russell his idol and say, hey, use this so you can send Parvati home. Mind you, Russell was not the only man left. I don't know why they chose Russell. Like, I don't know why they chose Russell. I understand that they don't know the dynamics, but it's like, it can't actually, he might have been the only man. But even then, it's like, why you have to give it, like, Russell of all the villains to send that to, it was like the dumbest decision. And they all laugh about it, and they're like, this is so stupid. And then they lie that Parvati used an idol, so then he, like, now the idols are gone, but Parvati had to stay. He does this pre-merge, mind you. Why would you give up your immunity idol, period? Why would you do it pre-merge based off an assumption? It's like, I do think that there are moments probably where you can use your immunity idol on somebody else in a strategic way that helps you further yourself in the game when they're an ally of yours and you understand the dynamics. And obviously you can never fully understand what's going on, but I think to assume you know what's going on in another tribe and then try to make a move based off of what you think is going on in that other tribe pre-merge, kind of silly, because it's like you actually don't know what's going on at the other tribe. You're not there. You're not witnessing it. People on the tribe probably don't even know what's going on within their tribe. But you think that you know because the men are disappearing, that means the women are targeting the men. It's also like, okay, what if they are? Why is that your problem right now pre-merge? Why are you going to align with Russell pre-merge by giving him your idol? Now you're not safe and he has safety. And it wasn't like, I don't know if they'd ever made idols that like they expire at the merge or whatever. It was like he was going to have that even when you merge. So then you're removing from yourself. I guess they thought that he was going next, but it's like, what if he does? Why is that your problem? I don't understand this. And then, mind you, that backfires. He gives it to Parvati. Russell does. And then Parvati, in an iconic tribal, this was so funny. She gives two of her, she has two idols because she found one, and then she has the one that Russell gave her. She gives one to Sandra and one to Jerry, who are on the villains tribe. So then, boom, I think, I don't remember who ended up going home, but obviously it was completely fine. I think it might have, I should have taken notes, but I didn't. I zoomed through seasons and I don't remember, but it was like really iconic. And like Russell was pissed because he was like, I gave that to you, but it's like, it was also stupid. It was also stupid from the heroes. And then this is the moment where I got really angry. Okay. I got really angry on Sandra's behalf because once they merged, the villains have an advantage numbers wise. And Sandra is on the outs because basically everybody from her alliance, Courtney, I think Courtney ends up going, or maybe Courtney went before, but Courtney is one of like, she's a villain, and she was in Sandra's alliance. So was Boston Rob. Like there were little alliances. At some point, somebody describes it as like there were Rob's girls and there were Russell's girls. So Sandra was aligned with Boston Rob. Boston Rob obviously went, and then Courtney was Sandra's last ally, and then she went. So then when they merged, she really didn't have anybody from the villains tribe, but the heroes, there were enough people that they could have swayed the votes with Sandra's vote. So Sandra was like, I've been wanting to get rid of Russell since we were on our tribe together. So like, yes, let's get Russell out. Candace, who is a hero, mind you, Candace hears of this and tells Russell. So then Russell confronts Sandra, and now she has to like, she can't turn because Candace is not going to vote. Like he's on Russell's side, obviously. So they're screwed. They can't vote. And like, so she has to vote with the villains so as to not, and then the villains just kind of have an advantage numbers wise, and there's not really much of a moment to recuperate. Then the boys, Russell tries to make an alliance with them. People just keep giving Russell chances, and Sandra the whole time is like, I don't want Russell here. But then he wins individual immunity a lot, and eventually he does make it to the end, and it was very satisfying. Oh my god, it was literally. It was a tribal council where Candace went home after this, after she wouldn't, vote with her team. She backstabbed, she flipped to side with Russell of all people for some godforsaken reason. And she goes, and at this tribal council before she goes, Russell says that they're just talking about people's roles in the camp. And he says that Sandra has no chance of winning. He would want to take her to the end because anybody would win against her in the end. And this really pissed me off because it's that's just not true. Mind you, okay, the thing that really gets me about Russell is that, mind you, he had played one time before this, and he was the runner-up on that season. So it's to me, it's if you're the runner-up in a jury vote, I really have a hard time buying this. Are there moments where there are bitter juries and maybe you were robbed? Maybe. Okay. But the players for me that I feel were robbed the most are the ones who didn't make it to jury, because it's you didn't even get a chance to plead your case. Suri in Micronesia, where it had been a final 3 for however many seasons, and then they did a surprise final 2. Actually, one more person's leaving, and so Suri gets screwed and she goes in 3rd place. That to me, I feel okay, she was kind of robbed because she didn't get a chance to plead her case to the jury. So it's somebody who did plead their case and didn't get the majority of the votes, then it's I really do not think you're a better player than Sandra, who did plead her case and won. And interestingly enough, in Sandra's first season, Pearl Islands, when they're leading up to the final 2, because it was a final 2 that season, the person she ends up going up against, Lil, a lot of people going into the final 2 were I don't want to go against her because I think that I would lose. A lot of people felt they would lose against her because everybody liked her. She had left and come back. They did an Outcasts twist, which I liked at the time, but I do have to say there was one player who he would have made jury, but then he didn't. That does suck when it's you get screwed over by a twist where it's you probably would have made it, but then new people come back and then there's more people than there were when you sent these people home already. Anyways, the person Sandra went up against, a lot of people going into it were she's very liked. And I do think if she had done a better job pleading her case, I do think she would have had a better chance of winning. But I think she couldn't articulate her game. And she did a bad job selling her case. And Sandra did also have the I personally would have voted for Sandra in the end, just on the merit of the fact that she was never voted out, because I don't think she had a single vote cast against her in Pearl Island. She did in Heroes Villains, but she didn't have any votes. I don't know if they ended up counting, because I know there was one where she had votes against her and then it was the immunity idol, those didn't count. But in Pearl Islands, immunity idols didn't exist. She was never written down as a name ever, which I do think is really impressive. So on that merit alone, and the fact that Lil got sent home and Sandra was there the entire time and got herself to the end, I would have voted for Sandra. But all that to say, Sandra got to the end against somebody who people thought would be people liked. She wasn't an easy person to get to the end and be everybody hates this person, I'm gonna win in a landslide. And she pled her case and she won. So to act as if you, Russell, who made it to the final 2 or 3, I think 2, it doesn't matter. He made it to the end. I think it was probably final 3. You made it to the final 3 and you did not win. You're going to say that Sandra, the only thing that Sandra, in my opinion, had going against her was the fact that she had already been a winner. But it was so funny because in the end, spoiler for Heroes Villains, it's Sandra, Parvati, and Russell in the final 3. And the only person in that final 3 who's not a winner is Russell. And you know who gets 0 votes? Russell. So all of this, I don't want to vote for a winner, I don't want to vote for a winner, it didn't even matter. people hated Russell that much. Like, it was so unserious to me the way that he thought that like he was just an easy win. And I wonder if there's something. I mean, I don't know, because even at the reunion, he still was like, if America voted, I would have won. Like, he had like the level of arrogance still. But there is something to Russell where I'm like, I wonder if you had gotten to watch your season back before you played your next one, if that would have influenced you. I really don't think it would, because again, I don't think that Russell had any like, self-awareness. That's my truth. He was so annoying. Like, it really, really pissed me off when he was like, Sandra would be an easy person to win against. That pissed me off. How? Do I think there are people who are screwed over by bitter juries where, like, as an outsider, I can be like, okay, you played a better game. It does suck that on an interpersonal level that, like, swayed the game when maybe it shouldn't have. Maybe. Like, for me, I do think there's something about, like, not managing the jury is a flaw in your game. So if you lose because of interpersonal conflicts, I can't fully be like, you were robbed, because I think a good player in these social strategy games has a good way of betraying you, but still making you feel like okay about that. Like, I think my favorite players in Big Brother are the ones who like go against you, but you still have like a soft spot for them. Or even if you have like, or you own it in a moment where you're like, yeah, that was shady, I'm sorry. Like, there's something about the way people are able to own their games when they backstab you and still have you want to vote for them that I think is a skill. And so if people, like, there are a few moments where I really feel like somebody was like really robbed by a jury. And so for somebody to have gotten to the end and not win, and then they don't do any reflection about like, why didn't I win? How am I coming across? And the fact that like at the like final tribal council, which by the way, I love the way they do this. I don't know if it's changed significantly in the newer seasons, because the most recent season I saw was David versus Goliath. And obviously I'm watching 50, but 50, we haven't gotten there yet. So I don't know if the final tribals have changed significantly, but I do really like them, the format. But at the final tribal council, multiple people are like, Russell, we don't respect the way you're playing the game. And he wouldn't concede to anything. It was so annoying. And then it's like time passes, you see how you're being received, you don't win, and you can't be like, yeah, maybe I should have played a little bit differently. I just can't stand that arrogance. I can't stand it. I really can't. He was so insufferable. My only knowledge of Russell Hantz before watching Heroes Villains was the fact that his brother was on Big Brother, and I did watch that season that his brother was on, and his brother got ejected because I think he got ejected. I don't know. I did watch that season. I believe it was season 10. No, it was 14. It was 14 because Ian was on that season. In my brain, I always confuse 14 and 10 because Dan was on both those seasons, but 10 is not the one that Ian was on, and Ian was in that season. So anyways, it like that was my only experience of Russell Hantz before, and I don't like him anymore now. He was so annoying. And Sandra burned his hat in the finale. I was so happy. I was like, another thing that is so Yellow Jackets coded that they do, okay, sorry to be annoying, is a lot of the times they burn the shelter that they've built at the end of the season. And I'm like, Coach Ben burning the cabin down for real. Okay. Like, it's genuinely like you're experiencing Yellow Jackets, but you have like a level of safety. Like, the game would just be a benefit. Like, I really think that I could get through any discomfort on Survivor by being like, this is just what the Yellow Jackets went through. It's making me stronger. Look at us. We don't even have to eat anybody. I'd be like, this is great. We don't even have to eat each other, guys. And we have rice. Like, this is so great. The social strategy, like the strategy itself, I don't know how good I would be at it. But the survival aspect, I think I would enjoy. Which, I mean, from like 5 years ago, I would not have believed you. I honestly really understand the Survivor hype now, and I understand I've watched like a handful of seasons that are like good seasons, and I'm sure some bad seasons of Survivor would piss me off, but I'm really enjoying the format. It's also way easier to to watch old seasons than it is to watch old seasons of Big Brother, just because Big Brother has so many episodes. So in that regard, I'm really enjoying it because like I got through Heroes Villains like super easily. It's great. I'm really, really enjoying it. If you have any Survivor seasons that you recommend me watching, please comment down below. I'm currently watching Cagayan. I will watch Amazon. I really want to watch Amazon. I started, again, I'm a member of the AmeriCorps. So they're currently watching Big Brother, not Big Brother, oh my God. They're currently watching Survivor All-Stars. So I'm watching that with them as they release the episodes. So yeah, if you have any seasons of Survivor you recommend me watching, I kind of maybe want to watch Rizzo's season because I really like Rizzo on Survivor 50. I am obviously, or maybe not obviously, but I am rooting for Sari to win Big Brother 50. Why do I keep saying Big Brother? Okay. I am rooting for Sari to win Survivor 50. I was a fan of Sari going in. I think she's playing a phenomenal game. I like there's not a ton of people that I currently dislike on the cast that I wouldn't want to win. Like there's some people I don't care about. Like the people I really love, Rizzo, Sari. I like Ozzy because he's aligned with Rizzo. I don't really care about Ozzy otherwise. He was fine on Micronesia. He was on fan favorites. He was fun that season, I guess. Which, oh my God, sorry, I'm hopping all over the place. But the final tribal council during Micronesia was some of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Okay, it was so weird. It was so weird. One girl says to the final two, Parvati, I don't think you're a good person. And Amanda, hearing you talk made me want to kill myself. Like, okay, what the hell was up with that? That wasn't even the craziest one. Then I don't remember her name. Oh my God, what was her name? She goes up to Parvati and she goes, so you're like known for being flirtatious. How does that resonate for you in the bedroom? I don't know what she was. It was so funny. It was so funny. And it really made me, like, I really am excited to see the tribal in Survivor 50. I imagine they're still like more candid in that way than like Big Brother. Like I'm a Big Brother fan, so obviously I'm comparing a lot of things to Big Brother, and I do think like the joy of those crazy final tribal councils has really made me realize how much the question and answer portion of the jury segments of Big Brother really suck. And what really sucks is like it made me think of, and obviously these are very different veins, but in like one of the early seasons of Big Brother, I believe it's Big Brother 5, one of the jury members asks, are you a lying racist or a racist liar? When are we going to hear that again? Not like, hopefully nobody's ever like racist where that needs to be addressed. But like my point is the kind of candid, sometimes mean, like in Big Brother All-Stars, they were really mean to Erica about being like sometimes they're not great. The jury segments of back in the day, but now it's like you're never going to hear a question that you wouldn't expect. I think something about like that authentic, genuinely, that is what you want to ask kind of question is really lost in the like format of the Big Brother questions right now, where it's like maybe it'll be somewhat different and slightly tailored to the person you're asking the question to, but overwhelmingly it's just going to be like, what was your best game move? Why should you win over that person? Sometimes there's a general, you weren't the nicest person, why should we vote for you anyway? Like you're never going to get like a real genuine question where it's like, you wronged me, why? Like, like we're missing that in the Big Brother jury segments. Okay, bring that back. I don't know. Like, I hate the way that they're done right now. I think they should change that. And watching like ridiculous tribal councils made me really realize that. Speaking of Micronesia, Sari was like so good in that season. I'm really, really enjoying watching Sari on Survivor. Like, I really realized that they really took her sparkle in Big Brother. Like, she clearly, and I understand that like it's edited, so like I'm sure they're not showing like the moments that she's upset, and it's a different experience watching somebody on feeds where they're like miserable, but even she's just funnier I think it's also again something about the way it's produced, where I think the confessionals in Survivor, like they don't feel the same. There are little differences between Survivor and Big Brother that I am leaning a little bit more into, like, I like the Survivor. I am kind of skewed because I'm like, if I watched old seasons of Big Brother, would I be like, I wish they did this instead? Now, I think a lot of it is just like the way the structure's changed. I do imagine a lot of new era Survivor has a lot of issues, like similar issues producing wise, of things feeling like less authentic than like older seasons do. I'm really excited to watch like a new style like Final Tribal. Like, how different are they? Are they still really different? I don't really know. I think of the seasons I've watched right now, Heroes versus Villains was definitely like up there. Sandra, I am like genuinely obsessed with her. Like, I love her so much. I think she is so iconic, and I'm such a fan. Like, the fact that her first 2 seasons, she won both, is iconic. I love her. She's so funny. Like, there were funny moments of her in Pearl Island, but in Heroes Villains, she was so funny. She was so funny. The way she hated her tribe, the way she hated Russell, the way she was trying to rally the heroes, but the heroes couldn't like see the forest for the trees and like try to side with her when she was trying to help them out. All so great. Also great. What can I say? What more can I say? Dave versus Goliath, it was a good first season to watch because it was a little bit more like new era. I do like the old era seasons that I watched more than I liked David versus Goliath. That one was another one that like the theme was interesting because like that theme was so weird because it's like David's versus Goliath. So it's like you're a loser or you're not a loser was kind of the vibe they were going with. And it was so weird. It was so weird. It was like, imagine auditioning and they're like, so are you kind of a flop in your life? Or are you like a hero? Like, it was like people who were like, I'm a CEO. Mike White's there because he's like a writer for TV. You know, it's so unserious. It's so unserious. And naturally, the Davids keep winning everything, or the Goliaths keep winning everything. I think in the final 3, I think Angelina was a Goliath. A David won that season, but like he's kind of a weirdo. He was a good player in that season. What he does in his real life outside of Survivor, I can't say the same. But like things that made me think of Yellow Jackets when I was watching Survivor. Angelina and her jacket, Yellow Jacket spoiler, when they're about to cremate Jackie, somebody's like, we should take her jacket. That was kind of exactly that. Rupert has a pet snake on Pearl Island, Balboa, R.I.P. That happened to my good friend, like so much. Everything to me is about Yellow Jackets on Survivor. The fact that somebody in Survivor, Cagayan, literally said, I didn't come to Survivor to survive in the wilderness, cracked me up because I'm like, that is exactly why I'm watching Survivor. That is exactly why I'm watching Survivor. Like, I genuinely think that I could get through the discomfort of Survivor on the thrill of connecting to the Yellow Jackets alone. Dear Survivor producers, if you ever decide to do a season in the Canadian wilderness, I'm available. So that's all I have to say. I'll probably keep talking about Survivor. So like next week, I'll talk about 50 a bit more and like my thoughts on this week's episode. Let me know if the video quality is any better or if I wasted $30 on this for nothing. If I start making money on this podcast, I will genuinely invest in the like premium version of StreamYard so my resolution can be a little bit better. But thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Comment down below seasons of Survivor you think I should watch. And you'll hear from me next week with more thoughts on Hacks and Survivor. I'll share more thoughts on Cagayan as I watch that, and then if I watch any other seasons. And also, Survivor 50 just meant to be like my first initial thoughts of my journey watching Survivor. I'll talk more about the episodes as I go along, if you care to listen. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Follow me wherever you listen to podcasts. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. All that good stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you have a great week.